Hey guys, what's up? Thanks for joining me on the packaging class today. So we got a lot to cover. Last week we did we created some die lines. We looked at some different box styles. If we look at the history of what we've done a ton. So thank you so much for joining me. If this is your first time joining us in the packaging class, I'd love for you to leave a comment, say first time, so we can welcome you. If you've been here from the beginning, I want you to comment beginning so that we can know who the veterans are in this packaging class. So thank you guys so much again for joining me. My name is Avelio Matos. I host the Package Design Unboxed podcast. Check it out. We got some really cool stuff happening with Pent Awards. Typically, I've got a different camera setup, but for some reason, I've been having some issues. So we're just running with this old school FaceTime camera. Now, today we are talking about innovation. And one of the things that I'm known for is innovating packaging structures. And it's funny because I always get asked, how do you innovate packaging? Oh, look at this. We got our first time caller, long time listener. Shout out to Mr. Adam Peak, who hosts the People of Packaging podcast, and he does the news with me. So super excited, guys. Thanks so much for having me on your mobile phone or laptop, wherever you're watching this. Randall, always awesome. Alex, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And Leah, we've messaged before, so thank you so much for being on here. Really appreciate it. All right, guys, so what we're talking about is innovation. And one of the things that I always get asked is, like, I don't know, I always think of like that scene in Batman, like the old school Batman, because I'm old, where Jack Nicholson's Joker goes, where does he get all these wonderful toys? It's kind of the same thing. Joel, thank you so much for being here. I get asked, like, where do you come up with these ideas? How do these ideas happen? Where do you find this inspiration? I don't really know. So I've had to think about it to figure out how I get from nothing, like no idea, to something, like a physical sample of packaging that actually works. We got somebody coming in all the way from the UK. Carl, thank you so much for being here. Since you're from the UK, there's one thing I've been practicing on the down low, which is my Cockney rhyming slang. You might get some of that now because it's terrible, but I think it's like the coolest sub language, slang. I love it. All right, guys. So I get asked, how do you come up with ideas? I've had to think about it, and through the last few episodes, I was speaking to Jamie at Subtle Studio. I've been talking to a couple different designers, and we've been talking about this. And one of the things that kind of comes up is having this bank, right? You don't want me to do the cocky rhyming slang? All right. All right. So one of the things that I think comes up with everybody is the idea of having this bank, right? Having this concept bank, and these ideas, you stuff them in there and you just let them ferment in your head, and something is going to come out. So how does this work? I'm going to show you something that I did not too long ago. If I can find where everything is here. So, okay. So here's something that I put together not too long ago. All right. So this is where let's see. What view should I include in my sketches? I'm not sure how that one showed up there, but I will figure out how to get rid of that guy. All right, we're gonna leave that up there for now so we can kind of crunch through this. This box on the bottom, I have to keep pointing, figure out where I'm pointing. This box on the bottom is a 2-piece box. It's a folding box. You've got a base, you've got a lid, and they twist off in order to separate, right? And you twist them together in order to lock them together. So just to show like where this idea originated from, I mean, it really just came from like the threads of a bottle, and seeing going through the motion of twisting and twisting, however many bottles I've opened in my lifetime, and then thinking like, okay, how do I apply this feature to paper? how do we get from, opening boxes in this direction to creating this motion? I don't need it to do like a full 360 or multiple turns. It's just getting this motion. And the reason I wanted to get to that motion was because I wanted to create something that's memorable. I think if you open a box in a completely new way, is a way to capture the consumer's idea of like, how are you doing? If you open something different, it all of a sudden captures the idea of like, wow, this is new, this is innovative. How do I get into this box? And there's excitement there. So from Sweden, look at that, work all the way in Sweden. Yes, this office is in the Matrix. It's all white, other than Lemmy in the background. But seriously, like when you create a new unboxing experience for somebody, it gives them pause, and the ability to give somebody pause in that moment is going to create a memorable moment. Now, if it's a sucky experience that causes them to pause, then that's an issue. Now, I don't know where this is coming from here. Boom, got it. Yeah, so if you've got a really crappy experience of unboxing where something doesn't work or something locks and you can't unlatch it, it does cause pause also, but it's a bad experience, right? It's a poor experience. And then they're going to associate that poor experience with your brand. So if you're designing a box, for example, like this box from Dip, these guys are awesome. You should check them out. The bar soap or bar shampoo and bar conditioner. It's a great experience. I'm going to have that great feeling towards the brand. If I was to get in here and it sucked, that translates to the brand, right? And where I see the name, where I see the logo, like visually, mentally, all that stuff comes together and it goes in your branding bank as a consumer, right? It's like, this brand, I didn't have a good experience. And the next time around, when you go to purchase it, you may not purchase that brand without even knowing why you're not purchasing that brand. It could have been because of the packaging. So definitely something that you want to take a look at. And we're coming, this is awesome. We're going all the way to India. So we've got pretty much the four corners of the planet here. I think all we're missing is Antarctica, and then we'll be awesome. So again, like here's a bottle and like this twisting motion, right? It's just one quick twist, and that led to that paperboard box. So what I wanted to do today is kind of go through the process of innovating. And I wanted to, I literally did this 30 minutes before I jumped on here. So I want to kind of get to it. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show some videos. But what this is I took this out of my neighbor's trash can because he and I share a trash can, and he always shares his packaging with me. He's like, hey, check out this box. Check out this e-commerce thing. I'm like, hey, I need like an egg carton. So I grab this feature, right? It locks. It's super squeaky, but it's styrofoam, terrible. Don't buy eggs in styrofoam. I've mentioned that to him several times, but check this out. There's a natural memory to the material, which is an outward push. There's also a double score in here that allows for that, for that push to happen. When this closes, you get that snap and it locks it in place. Nothing's falling out of here. Now, is this innovative? Absolutely not. But where do ideas come from, right? So I wanted to kind of get to that point of like where ideas come from. So I've seen these boxes my whole life. I think we've all seen something similar our whole lives. But, oh, look at that. We got somebody coming in all the way from Antarctica. Check that out. Shaheen, thanks so much, man. You fulfilled my dreams. So seeing this box, right, or seeing this pack forever, and just like the bottle, it's like, how do you take this function and apply it to paperboard? How do you take this feature and apply it to paperboard? That's what started this morning. I'm like, okay, that's something really simple, because I think everybody has seen that box. Everybody's seen an egg crate, an egg carton. We've all experienced that locking feature. So I think it's something that all of us can reach into our fridge or just go into our memory bank of what that looks like and how that functions. So the first thing that I needed to do was, okay, how am I going to apply this to a box? What needs to happen in order for that feature to work? And if we look at, this really loud squeaky box, you need, right, before we even get to the process, like let's take a look at the components here. And you've got my dog groaning over here. There's a hinge, right? The hinge is opposite the locking feature. That seems really basic, a really basic observation, but it's something that you have to understand when you start designing, like trying to replicate this in a different feature, right? Because this is what's important. You've got a hinge that's opposite the locking feature. The locking feature is on the base, and these little tabs are more aggressive on the bottom, and the top has a more sloped piece that allows the lock to function. Then this piece comes down, and it puts pressure and it holds it in place. These guys pop out. The little holes are a little bit larger than those pieces. Okay, so if I am going to create this, I'm going to share my screen and show you the process that literally happened 30 minutes ago, which this is at my kitchen counter, just, large sheet. I sketched out the idea in pencil. I didn't think it was visible enough, so I went back over it in white pencil. Right, so here I am. I'm basically just drawing a lock. It's going to be made out of paperboard, so that means that it's going to have angles, right? Because we're folding. So we've got the locking feature. Now I've got one panel, I've got two panels. So that's one panel, that's two panels. Now I'm figuring out where it's going to come out of the paper itself. And now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to accomplish these two pieces. So you start seeing like this T over here. I can't zoom in. You start seeing this T shape. That's like how it's going to lock into the box itself. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to share like the next step. And again, it's like, how do you create these pieces? So I know that I need two features like this, which is one panel, two panel. That's a fold in the middle to create that angle. And then that T part is actually over here, which is then going to lock into the box, into the base of the box. So just to move this thing along a little quicker, I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next video. Cool. So you can see here, I've sketched it all out. This is the original piece. This is the second piece here. Now I'm folding it and I'm folding it and unfolding it in my mind. I've sketched it out. I've got like this H cut and I've got this piece here. These are two pieces that'll fold over. Now I'm going to go ahead and lay out this box. This will fold over. This T thing is going to thread through here and create this feature. I've never done this before, so this is completely like a brand new structure straight from scratch. And this is the way that I work. Like a super rough mock-up. Okay, there's no measuring here. I'm just using the width of the ruler in order to get me where I need to be. So this is panel 1, panel 2. This is the base. I'm making it twice the width of the height. I'm going to just kind of scan along here. I'm kind of marking them all out. So I even screw up and measure it wrong. This happens a lot in prototyping. You are going to make a lot of mistakes. Don't worry about it. It's a rough prototype. Doesn't matter. We got panel 1, panel 2. This is the whole base. This is the back panel. Now I need the top in order to make this box work. So I do the top. Right, I measure, I list it all out. No measuring required here. This is getting the sides of the box. And then this ends up being my template, right? There's no measurements, just a bunch of lines and trying to figure out how to cut it and then make it actually work. So like I said, it's extremely rough prototype that we want to get to be able to see how this idea functions. And when you do that, it's not going to be the greatest prototype, but you just have to see if this is even going to work. Because if you can get it to work in a rough prototype, you can get it to work in production. And that's what's important. So here I've done a time lapse. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of I'm not measuring, I'm just identifying which panels I'm going to cut off, which ones I'm going to keep, and then how I'm going to build this box. If you got any questions along this process, please let me know. Happy to answer them. I'm using the back of my X-Acto blade to score everything. It doesn't have to be perfect. If it cuts through, no sweat. We got to just keep going. Okay, so then, the scores I start folding. Next, what you're going to see is how I start putting this locking feature in place. And this is more on the production of this prototype. But I think if we kind of think about where the idea came from, it came from here, and quickly just sketching out like how this is going to function, knowing that the hinge is on the back panel means that I need this feature in a box. And if I need for this to lock into this panel, I need it to come down and actually lock in place. So I need a box that's going to have a body like this with an overlapping front flap. So I've made those before. I've made boxes with lids and hinges. So now it's just taking that general idea, adding the flap to the front of it, and a locking feature that extends out past that bottom flap. So if you've ever made a rough prototype like this, definitely share in the comments. If you've never made a prototype like this, then definitely post something in the comments. If you have any questions, because I get a lot of questions on how do you prototype. This is exactly how I do it. There's no measuring required, just really rough. And it doesn't have to be pretty. You're gonna see how this comes together. It is the least pretty piece ever. That was very loud. But you can see as I'm folding it all together. I want to make sure that this assembles quickly. And I even screw up here and cut these two flaps, which they should all be together. But again, rough prototype doesn't matter. So Andrew's asking if I just use poster board for the prototype. Yeah, this is just some extra board that I had left over from a project I did with James Cropper and IDP Direct. This is an amazing paper. It's called Rydell from Cropper. Definitely check out that paper. But it's just extra paper that I have, and I just use this. If I didn't have this, I would use just paper, like printing paper, just a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet. You can see how, again, it's like super rough. I've got packing tape. I'm not sponsored by Scotch, but if Scotch is listening and you do want to sponsor this, give me a call. Oh, now I can use my rhyming language. Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, dude. Yeah, so these, again, it's like how quickly you prototype really matters, because it's like, how do you get that idea from your head onto paper as fast as possible? This is something that I go over with my class at ASU, is you have the ability to make just really rough prototypes, because that's what you want to show. If you want to show this to a client, clients love seeing this part of it, the development. They don't necessarily want to see a beautiful rendering right off the bat. They don't want to see something that is like precise. They want to see the process, right? This is what they're buying into, is the process. How do you get there? Now, what I'm doing here is, pause this here. This T is the T that you saw in the very first sketch. So you've got my base here. This is an extra panel. And to be honest with you, I cut this upside down. This T should be flipped the other way around, but it's a prototype. I wasn't thinking through it. So yeah, so it just kind of, you screw it up and you fix it. Now Randall's saying this is like a talkie lock concept. Now, I've never heard of the talkie lock. I'd love to see an example of that. I'm definitely going to Google talkie lock. Yeah, so I'm cutting through this stuff really quick, popping that piece out, and nothing exciting happens here. So this piece here, now what I'm going to show you is how this folds and becomes that feature. And again, it's all about quick. It's all about getting it done as fast as possible, because that's all that really matters. It's like, how do you create something that you can refine? I don't need to solve every problem in this prototype. I just need to be able to create a physical piece that'll identify the problems that I'm going to have. so that I can fix those and move on to the next level. So the last video we saw, this gets cut out. So I'm cutting this out. I'm gonna move quick here. This little H shape is what I'm gonna cut here in order to thread this thing through. All right, so there's my H shape. I think I actually miss the centerpiece in this prototype, but again, it's super rough. I'm threading it through. It comes out the back. So just figure out where that score is going to happen. And I thread it back through. Now, this part's important. I use that T that I folded over, and I slip it behind the paperboard in order to trap that component so that it pushes itself back out. So there's that feature. Right? So there's that feature that we were after from the egg carton. Now, if this was flipped over the right way, if I had cut that T in the right orientation, this would work much better. But you just have to figure out how that works. Somebody's asking if this would work as a flat pack rigid wrap too. To eliminate magnets, definitely possible. I think it's something we could definitely look at. You can combine materials, rigid box with paperboard. There's always lots of different things that you can actually do. And you can even do molded fiber for the locking feature if you wanted to get into that. So you can see here, I'm cutting all these pieces. This is the hole that I'm cutting that's going to receive the male component of that egg crate. Super loud. But this is all that it's taking to build that box. I'm just taping the edges together. And then you can see what happens here. So everything is functioning. And that's it. So how does the box work? It's not perfect. I've got it right here. It's not perfect. You've got tape all over the place. You've got this hole in the top that's going to accept that piece. I want to make sure my folds are nice and tight. You want to fold this back here and get this back panel nice and creased. And then here's that feature. It doesn't have as much compression as I'd like because I had to tape the inside of it. There's no special effects here. I had to tape the inside of it because that T was cut upside down. So I don't have the spring loading that I should have if it was the other way. So when you close this guy, and because this lid isn't longer than the base, you get this outward pressure happening. So that's a problem that I've identified that I need to fix. But when I close this, and I put that right over the top of that, this box does function enough, right? I know that this can work. And again, it's a rough prototype. So the fact that pops out doesn't mean that the idea is no good. It just means that I need to refine where this panel is. I need to adjust the measurement. I can probably adjust the angle of this bottom piece so that it's a little bit lower. And those are all easy fixes to get this item to work. Now, when you develop something like this, and you've got this piece that actually pushes in and pushes out, that's something that I haven't seen before other than here. So you've seen it first here on the packaging class. And that's like all that's required. I think if you're, looking around your house, different types of things that you see, I don't know, I've got this, this is a loop, right? So I can check 4-color process. I can check spot colors. It has this really cool feature here that this rotates and it adjusts the lens. It's basically like binoculars, right? It's just focusing. Can I create a box that has this kind of a feature? Can I create a molded fiber piece that I move and something else happens, right? That it creates a secondary action. This is where you start finding innovation, is looking around. And some of my, I got this from, I was talking about the team at IDP Direct. Those guys do some really cool stuff. I got this bag from them and I love it because it has like this bellows side, right? It's a shopping bag, but it has like these additional folds that are happening in here. And it creates like this bellows effect. And those are like the small little innovations. It's still a paper shopping bag. They've added another fold to it, and it's created something completely new. Same thing with this. The overall box. You've seen a box that functions this way. You've seen boxes that have magnets in the front, but now you've got another opportunity to do something like this. Now, if you want to prototype this, I'm going to go ahead and upload this entire video to YouTube. I'll include stills of the die line. I'm not creating an actual die line for it, but you can pull those off of there and prototype it. If you've got a printing company, factory, production, and you want to prototype this, do it and share it and tag me in it, because I'd love to see it. And I think this is the way that together we can all prototype. I think if you go out there, get a piece of paper, it doesn't have to be a paper board. It can just be a regular sheet of paper. Even if you just build the 2 front flaps and you take an existing box that hinges, you just add those flaps to it. It's another way to do it. Just really fast, really quick. This literally took me less than 20 minutes to put together. I think it took me longer to find the paper board and sharp X-Acto blades, but that's how you do it, is just find an idea and put it together, put it to use. Now, if you're in packaging, that means when you're going to the grocery store, when you're picking up your kids from softball, like whatever it is that you're doing in your life, there's inspiration everywhere, right? Like I said, like this thing is sitting on my desk, like creating a box that does that is amazing, would be really cool. So that just goes in the bank. And if you're meeting with a client and they say, hey, I really want some innovative pack that's going to, have some sort of raising lever, immediately all of the ideas that have this raising feature, twisting feature are going to bubble up. And you're going to see if any of those are good solutions that can be applied to this project. So just look at everything around you as an opportunity to innovate packaging. Doesn't matter what it is. I mean, I'm looking around to see what I find that has anything interesting. I don't know. There's handles that have, these are handles from our last class. They have this little brad. Is there something that can do that in a paperboard box, like that can create an actual lock? I like paperboard just because it's easy to cut and prototype. I don't require like a 3D printer or anything crazy. So just look around and see what you can do that has some really cool functionality. I mean, my mouse, it's got that click. Is there something that I can create that can compress down like that? Again, super, super easy. Looks like Adam beat me to it. He just trademarked that box. So reach out to him for licensing. Appreciate everybody that's listening here. Like I said, leave comments. If you have any questions, I'm here for another minute. So if you got any questions, post them in the comments. If you want to check this out, I'll definitely leave the link to YouTube, because I think people are having a hard time watching the older classes. So you can just go to my YouTube channel and watch those classes there. But if you don't have any questions, I'm going to bounce. Guys, it is Friday. Like, how awesome is that? Thank you guys so much for joining me on Friday and taking time out of your busy days. And you're right, Randall, you can do a ton more with SBS compared to corrugate. But that doesn't mean that you can't innovate in corrugate. I think you can do just as much, just knowing what corrugate you're using. If you're using like an F flute or a B flute, those are going to create some limitations. If you're combining different materials, which way your fluting is going makes a big difference in some of these things. But I think you could definitely create this out of corrugate for like an RELF style box or an RETT box, and have that locking mechanism on the front. It just creates one more moment of interaction with the consumer. So definitely check that out. But I do love SBS board or just paperboard, because it is so easy to cut and prototype with. And then you can scale that up to different materials, from rigid gray board, corrugated board, whatever it takes. Really good stuff. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. Check out Package Design Unboxed. I've got 2 episodes that are coming out that are super, super exciting. I've got one with Butterfly Cannon, and we're talking about sustainability. Then I also have one with TerraCycle, and we're talking about carbon neutrality and a lot of other killer subjects throughout both of those guys coming out in the next couple of days. Check it out. Do me a favor, leave a review on the podcast. That super helps me. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you next week. Enjoy your long weekend, or spring break if you guys have spring break, if your kids have spring break.